Axel van Trotsenburg, Senior Managing Director of World Bank. Great to see you.
Thank you. Thank you for having me.
I also hear that this might be the last time we talk together in your role for GZERO, because after 37 years, you're leaving. So we're going to have to make this count. I'm going to ask you a bit more about that a little later. First, we've all heard IMF's global outlook, somewhere around 3% growth, described as not the end of the world, but not great. I'm sort of wondering at this point, what do you think is the biggest risk that could flip that into contraction?
Well, I think the risk is that the uncertainty that has affected the world has, of course, translated into a wait-and-see attitude by many actors, from governments to private sector, and that in turn translates into then holding back on investments and so on. So that is a risk that we should avoid, and to see how much, again, predictability we can restore, because that is much better for business. Clearly, where the World Bank sits is we are mainly concerned about, of course, the well-being of developing countries. We would like to see them progress, and therefore, if they have a more predictable environment, that will allow them again to increase investments, but also this will be translating into higher growth, which is important for particularly all the middle as well as the low-income countries.
So your purview here at the bank is really enormous. It's all the development pillars, which are people, planet, prosperity, infrastructure, and digital. Of those five, which one is the most urgent right now to you?
Well, that's a difficult question because many are. I think that it depends where you're sitting. I think certainly a fundamental pillar is human development. We have here at the annual meetings the human capital enclave. It is important that we stay sharply focused on human capital, and that has suffered, so that is important. I think also the infrastructure area remains a key area where I would say we need to be paying particular attention to is the digital and AI pillar. Why? Because those two are risking to increase again the divide, a digital divide as well as an AI divide, particularly in the low-income countries. And I think we need to see how we can avoid that. That means investments, but also inclusive policies.
So 1.2 billion people will age into the workforce over the next decade, and this is World Bank statistics, 400 million jobs waiting for them. That's at the current rate of creation. You mentioned AI. How do we make sure that AI doesn't take away many of those 400 million jobs?
Well, clearly what we are wanted to highlight is there is a gap, and we need to work across the policy spectrum, what we can do. That can be dealing with the policy environment, it can deal with infrastructure, it can be deal with the human infrastructure. We will need all this type of investments. But AI, I think the jury is still out. You have heard here at the meetings also that we have talked about small AI, meaning that farmers with a cell phone could actually identify very simply a disease in their crops. They could actually get very quickly advice in real time and maybe also in their local languages what they should do. So I think there are instruments from AI that can be very useful also for example, small holders. It can be also for small and medium-sized enterprises. We see there is a lot more potential on this. Let's see how we can exploit that to the max. Clearly, the big AI that you're seeing here in the United States or elsewhere will require an unbelievable amount of energy that Africa right now doesn't have. So we need to see how we can pursue the energy revolution in Africa. We have the M300 to allow 300 million Africans access to electricity by 2030, and then yet there are still 300 then million missing. So there is a huge agenda, but that will allow them to get into the first phase of AI. And I think that will allow them certainly to have new job opportunities.
So you're talking about infrastructure, you're talking about connecting the 2.6 billion people in the world who don't have internet access, let alone the 700 million who don't have electricity. These are development expenses, and the OECD in 2024 found that the vast majority of wealthy countries were giving less, not more, and for the first time in several years there was a decline in giving. What real world impact is that already having?
Well, it has had for some time, because the so-called ODA, the Official Development Assistant, what we're seeing is there has been a redirection of the ODA actually to the donor countries themselves. Very often they are counting the cost for refugees in their budgets, and actually for the low-income countries there have been already less. This is a harsh reality, but it's also maybe an important moment where one should reflect how one can actually be more efficient with the scarce resources one has received. Secondly, how one can involve more the private sector. And third, also, how to make sure that the domestic resource mobilization is at levels that also allow for critically important investment. Keep in mind that many of the low-income countries have not even taxation levels that reach 15% of GDP. Some are below 10%. It's very difficult to run successful health, education, and infrastructure programs at that type of levels.
So a ceasefire reached finally in Gaza after 2 violent years. In the spring, World Bank projected about a $53 billion expense for Reconstruction. Reconstruction obviously being one of the original platforms of the World Bank. But with Gaza, with Ukraine, with a number of other areas in conflict, how do you balance collecting the funds needed to rebuild with your long-term development goals?
Well, let's face it. The reconstruction was always part of us. When in Bretton Woods we negotiated this institution, the original title was International Bank for Reconstruction, the big R, and Development. The development has, of course, become very, very important, but the R of reconstruction never actually withered away. It was from the reconstruction of Europe to actually other efforts that have been taken all over the place in the world. And so clearly, when peace is at hand, very often the World Bank is being asked to do this. We have a fair amount of experience in that we do fundraise this, often for specific countries, but also within the IDA envelope, we have provided for possibilities to provide additional investment possibilities on this. So we have complemented our instruments to be successful. For us to be part of it in areas where we can help on reconstruction, the bank traditionally has responded, and my expectation, we will continue to do so.
You say in the history of multilateralism, you've seen a lot of that history. 37 years is almost half the time this organization has been around. What's the biggest change looking back that you've experienced?
I think when I joined, that was in 88. 89 was a tumultuous year with the fall of the Berlin Wall. I would say that was also the signal that we moved on from sometimes being a Cold War organization to a really global institution where we had 189 members until the day we had it. And I think that is certainly very important. Secondly, I think the opening of the organization to a much more interactive with governments, with civil society, with press. I think this has only benefited on this, coupled with the fact that we have now around offices around the whole world. So we benefit from the diversity of the membership, the different opinions, but also what is important for them. And I think that is one of the important trends. Financially, clearly, we have grown enormously, but particularly for the poorest countries, the mobilization of scarce concessional resources has really topped the last 15 years. And this has been good news, particularly for Africa. And I think that is important that we stay focused on those who need most of our support.
Final question. I want you to finish this sentence for me. In the past 37 years, I've been most proud of
working with an incredible set of people in the World Bank. They come from all walks of life. They have passion, they have commitment, they have drive, and all what our ambition is to help make for a better world.
Axel van Trotsenburg, best of luck to you in your next chapter, and thanks for doing this.
Thanks so much.